Hey, this is Matt. And before we get started with this week's show, just a couple of announcements. First of all, in the first part of the show, we talk to Matt Legg, founder of FC Not Alone. That conversation includes talk of depression, mental health, and suicide. If that is something that is triggering for you or hard for you to hear, the timestamps in the show notes will indicate when that part is over. And you can skip over that with FC Not Alone founder Matt Legg and get straight to the discussion of Burnley with both Dave Champ and also Stephen White, who runs St. Mary's Statbase. Secondly, this will be the final episode of the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, and I just want to take a second to say thank you to all of you before this show starts. It has been a pleasure and an honor to be able to host this show, develop this show, to talk to so many of you, and to be listened to by so many people and have reached so many people and communicated with so many people in one way or another over the past 4.5 seasons. When I started the show, there were no other Southampton podcasts. The Saints FC podcast started soon after that. The Total Saints podcast came the following summer. And since then, there have been a number of podcasts. Some have stayed, some have gone. But you have shows like the In That Number podcast and the When the Saints podcast. There's also Under the Lights and just so many other podcasts that are out there now that you can listen to. And it's been a pleasure to be a part of that community. That is its own special little thing. But this comes at a good time for me. When I started the show, it gave me something to concentrate on that wasn't, I don't want to say not important, but it wasn't real life. It gave me somewhere to focus my attention and to work and to kind of escape from everything else that was happening. And since then, my life has changed pretty dramatically. The show takes a lot of time, and it's time that I love. It's sitting here doing this is something that I will never regret. Over the course of my life, I have always just added things to my schedule. It's somehow some badge of honor that I can schedule and figure out how to fit so many things into the 24-hour period that I have in a day. And I don't think necessarily that is healthy, but that is definitely something that I grew up and somehow for some reason thought that was what I was supposed to do. So, now I am trying to fight against that. And so looking at the time this takes, having been forced to kind of look at everything over the pandemic, to slow down, to realize that we don't have kids sports and we don't have high school sports and a lot of the activities that we used to want to do both as a family and me individually, those were gone. And yet the time I had just to sit and be with my family with only doing the show and working was very minimal. And it just gave me an idea of exactly how much time I dedicate to this show each and every week. And so instead of trying to cram it all in, instead of trying to make more hours in the day than there are actually, I've made the decision to take this off of my schedule. And it's a decision that I, of course, am not taking lightly. It's hard to walk away from something that you enjoy so much and that you have put so much time into. But at the same time, as people grow, as time goes on, it is I think it's the right thing to do. So I hope that people understand that. And some people may say this kind of comes out of nowhere. And you're right. I didn't tell anybody. I told the patrons on Friday, on Good Friday. Sorry, I probably ruined that a little bit, but I told them on Friday, and that was really when the news started to come out. And I asked them to kind of keep it quiet until now because I wanted to tell you, all of you as listeners, I wanted you to hear it from my mouth and not from anywhere else. So I am leaving the show. The show will cease to exist, as will the newsletter. But I know that there are friendships on here that I have made and connections I have made, and I don't anticipate those going away. The dogs will forever continue to bark. The kids will forever continue to interrupt. And I think the only change is that you won't have me in your ear for an hour each and every week. And, it's been 220 of them. So it has been quite a few. And I've enjoyed almost every minute Not going to lie, the 9-0s were a little difficult to deal with, but if you thought I was somehow going to leave that out of this, then you are just simply wrong. And wrong is something that I've been a lot over the past couple of seasons. And so, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sending in your questions. Thank you for interacting in one way or another. And quite simply, just thank you for being fans of the team and accepting me as a kid from California with no real business starting a podcast about a team in Southampton. So that said, let's do this one more time.
You're listening to the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a wash machine.
Conte with a scooping header
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
Подача, Остин! Все-таки забил!
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0! Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, available right here on SouthamptonDellivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show. No matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope you enjoy it. And the range of emotions that I felt watching the Burnley match are similar to those that I have recording this episode or had recording this episode. We all know the highs and lows that are associated with watching Saints, the excitement and the disappointment, and the thought that things could have gone better and maybe are going as well as they ever have, all at the same time. That is a little bit of what I feel like right now. But this week on the show, we have the co-founder of FC Not Alone, Matt Legg. We will talk with him about founding FC Not Alone, about his battles with depression, and kind of what FC Not Alone aims to do. Joining me for that interview is Dave Champ, who was born in Southampton and now lives in Ohio. He was the one who introduced me to FC Not Alone and kind of helped set that interview up. So together we spoke with Matt last week, and I'm excited to bring you that. After that, I talked with Dave again immediately following the Burnley match, and then we'll follow that up with St. Mary's Statbase, Stephen White, who runs that page. We'll talk about what sets it apart from some of the other pages that are out there, and then also his interviews and association with Southampton FC Women's, which is the official Southampton Football Club women's team, not Southampton Women's FC, which is not associated with the men's team at all. So we'll talk about all of that, and it is a bittersweet episode. It covers a lot of things that I really enjoy talking about, from obviously the men's team, a win, plenty of goals, good play from Danny Ings and the rest of the team. But it also has, the women's team, and it also has, mental health and so many other things that are a part of football and that are part of our lives and that are super important. And I'm so happy to be able to talk about all of them and cover all of them. And of course, there were things that I wish we could have covered more on the show. There are things that I wish I would have done a little bit better. But that's part of life. And I've learned so much. I just want to say thank you to all of you who have listened. If you skipped the big pre-intro music thing, this will be the final episode. So thank you so much for listening. And I appreciate your support over the last 4.5 years. And I am excited to move on. There is no other project. I will not be doing a Liverpool podcast for money. This is just a time to, I don't want to say relax, but focus, be present with my family. And I'm very excited about that. So thank you to all of you. And let's do this one more time with feeling. And I will talk to you on the other side. We'd like to welcome to the Southampton Dellivery Podcast, Matt Legg of FC Not Alone, and returning to the show along with Matt to kind of conduct this interview is Dave Champ. So hello, Matt. Hello, Dave. Matt, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, guys. Hope you both are doing well. Been speaking to you both for a while now, so it's good to finally get this going. And yeah, very happy and flattered to be here. How are you both doing?
I'm doing all right.
I'm great. I've just recovered from my second COVID shot, so that was yesterday. So I'm doing as well as I can do, I guess.
Yeah, invincible now.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
That's great news.
Give it a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm getting the second one today, so fingers crossed everything goes all right. And Dave, thanks for. Hopefully, you're not too fatigued by the end of this to be able to continue. So, Matt, we have you on. Dave made me aware of FC Not Alone. I was completely oblivious to the organization of the company. I'm not sure kind of how you refer to it, but kind of starting to follow along and look at some of the stuff you're doing. I just basically just for people who may not know. What's the goal of FC Not Alone? What is FC Not Alone, and where did it come from?
So, FC Not Alone is still something reasonably new, created about 3 years ago off the back of my own battle with depression and anxiety. And basically, we are a community interest initiative, which means that it's a non-profit organisation with any profits being focused on efforts to help the community. And what our goal is to try and use the power of football to improve men's health. And we're on a mission to use the power of football to allow men to feel comfortable about opening up about their mental health and create a community to support them where they may be lacking one. Currently in the United Kingdom, we're seeing about 100 suicides every week, male suicides, and it's the most likely thing to kill men under 45. So we just want to do our bit to reduce the stigma around depression and anxiety, because silence for a lot of those cases is the killer, and the feeling that they're alone and that there's no one that can help them get better, really. So how do we do that in practice? Well, we pre-COVID held kind of just football sessions with coaches that are trained in mental health first aid, and you can come down regardless of your ability. You don't need to be able to play, or I've played before even, and come down, hold a session. It's great for your mental health, both kind of scientifically, endorphins just get released, serotonin from meeting other people. But also you create your own community, and a lot of our people don't have that support base, and we want to give that to people and all the other great benefits that come with playing football. Finally, at the end of the session, we signpost them for where they can go for professional help. So that's how it started, and it's developed a bit since then. But no, I'm really happy that kind of the word is being spread and the community is getting bigger.
Yeah, Dave, can I ask you, how did you first become aware of FC Not Alone, since you were the one who introduced it to me?
Right. I was looking on the BBC Sport website, and I just came across the article, and it really spoke to me. Many years ago, well, just before my last job, before coming to the States to live, I actually worked in a mental health hostel. And so I was familiar as a older student as well with that sort of problem. And when I saw it, I thought, wow, I can really relate to this, because when I came to the States, I left my support network back in England, my parent and my mother, and I'd really forgotten how much football meant to me. And when my mother got sick in 2017, I went back with the purpose of meeting up with my son and my brother and my nephew. And we all went to the last game of the season. And I was just reflecting back on that and thinking, wow, that really made me feel good to reconnect with everybody at home, to go back to the soccer ground. And then I found Matt through Instagram, and, the ball started rolling. And when I saw that article and I was reading everything that you put down there, I thought, wow, yeah, that was maybe me 19 years ago when I came to the States. Not that I got that depressed, but I was away from my support network, and I had no one to really, other than my wife's family, to talk to. And I had to, obviously, over a period of time, make, relationships with them to the point where I could confide in them. And one other thing I'd like to bring up, Roman Kemp documentary, that was just amazing. There was a few takeaways I took from that. One was, when you ask somebody if they're okay, ask it again. Because I know in England, it's a greeting, you say, you okay? And my brother does that to me, you okay? My son does it, but they're not really asking if you're okay. It's a greeting, you know? I think it's really important to do that.
Matt, when I was kind of watching some of the stuff that you guys had on YouTube and reading your co-founder, Ian McKenzie, I think one of your best friends, and during your, I don't know if your darkest time, but during your battle with depression, when you were kind of feeling quite alone, I think he continuously did that. He continuously reached out to you and kind of forced you out and forced you to come do this. But kind of what role has he played in helping you and then also getting this started?
Yeah, he's played a massive role. I mean, with Ian, the way we know each other is we're cousins, so we kind of bonded initially on the fact that we were family, but the conversation point for us both was always football. And whilst Ian, I think, will admit that he hasn't, I mean, it's so hard to know because you're your only reference point, but he'd say he hasn't been as low as I got. He's also had to deal with some stuff. And so he could speak to me on that level, on a brotherly level. And I was shutting everyone out. But apart from him, there was only a few people I'd let in. And he was one of them. And he just took that on, constantly visited me. And I'd stopped playing football from a kind of point of embarrassment because part of the depression was kind of lethargicness, and I felt that I was just slower, and it was easier for me to not to play, because if I played, it would just be embarrassing for me, and that would make the whole thing worse. When in reality, he got me down to a match where everyone signs up, so I didn't know anyone. So actually, that point of me being like wanting to hide my weakness in front of other people was void. So we went together, and it was just a great hour where nothing else was on my mind, and it was actually really comforting, encouraging. And it just made me, for that hour, I didn't have to think about how my life was kind of falling apart, but I could still play football. So that's not gone. And so that's kind of where this all began, when I started to get a bit better. We saw a campaign by the Campaign Against Living Miserably, who I don't know if they're available in America, but they're here in the UK. And they're a fantastic organisation who did a campaign called Project 84. So in 2018, it was 84 men per week were taking their own lives in the UK. And we saw that, and off the back of what I'd gone through, we were like, this is our time to do something about it. And so Ian and I initially set up the FC Not Alone Charity World Cup tournament, and then we realised this is bigger than just actually a solo tournament, because people characters such as Dave saw it and really related to it and came along, and we realised that actually we've got a real team of people here. We can make a far bigger difference than we'd anticipated. So since then, me and Ian have been leading the way, alongside having this whole team of great people that help us hold events or panel events, or now writing for us on the website to try and continue that journey and reach as many people as possible.
Such an awesome project. Can I ask you, Matt, is it a full-time job for you now, or do you have another job and this is by the side of it?
So I'm still currently a university student.
Oh, you are?
So I'm in my final year, and Ian himself has a job, and we are still planning at this moment for it to be like, it's a side project for us, even though I think we both admit it's the most important thing to us. It's just not viable really to take it full time, but it's something we do as if it is a hobby. We kind of get the enjoyment from it, and it's the most valuable thing we've both ever done. So if we're working on it at night, it doesn't feel like a chore or anything like that, because you know that the end result is far more important than anything else we could do in our time. So we still dedicate the time to it, but it's full-time job would be, I'd say, the dream for both of us, but it's not viable. And we both also have professional aspirations that we want to try and achieve for the moment.
And I know that the pandemic has obviously impacted everybody in every aspect of their lives, and I think depression and those types of things have gone up since then. And I know there's people online on Twitter, and that's not always a good barometer of everything, but it seems like people are really kind of struggling. And I just wonder how has that got kind of impacted you, because you normally would have these meetup sessions and you would have the coaching, and that was kind of, I assume that was quite limited for you, but how did you kind of deal with that or work around that?
I think, to be honest with you, all of our activities that we were going to hold, I mean, we had big plans for 2020, as I imagine everyone did, and just got completely put on hold, really, because the way we operate is by doing these sessions where we bring everyone together, big groups of people, whether it's tournaments or panel events or just our coaching sessions. And that got put on hold. So we're a little bit helpless, we thought. And also there was a lot of noise being made online about how to help people. And we thought it was great. You know, most of the stuff was really helpful and positive. And we didn't have anything to add. You know, people were getting more advice on how to deal with their mental health than ever before. And we didn't want to add anything that we thought was just there to try and maintain status or whatnot. But now things are opening up. We are now able to do all those plans and are hoping to kind of have more regular content on all our platforms. And, you know, football in England has been allowed again as of Monday, as in, the 29th. So that's very exciting. And our football team had a match, and it means that we can start looking forward to the sessions, because in theory, in the United Kingdom, everything by June the 21st will be open. I think everyone's a bit on edge about that because it seems unrealistic, but you never know. So we have to plan for that. And so hopefully we can start doing tournaments again. But on what you're saying as well, there's studies that came out last week that were saying that over half of young people have said that, I don't know where they quantify young people, but it's unimportant for the study. What I'm about to say is that 52% of people said their mental health had gotten worse because they weren't able to play sport or exercise. Because if you have a family, it's even then, just to go and play sport is a great escape. But what if you're that single man who lives in a flat by himself and that was your time to go and see other people and have a community and run around, and that's your support network? What about that?
Yeah.
So it's contact, isn't it? It's having that contact, meeting up with your friends, you know, having a laugh, having a joke, catching up on what they've been doing. It's not the same doing it by Zoom or Skype or some artificial way. It's just not the same. It really came home to me back when I went back home and I saw my brother. He went every week. He had a season ticket at Southampton, and he had a group of friends that every week he would meet up with those group of friends because that's where they all sat near him. So he knew them like brothers and sisters and stuff. And he introduced me to this group of about 20 people that he had regular contact with. And then I was looking, we were going to eat before the game, and there's all these vendors outside the ground. And he was even putting up a table around for this one guy. And I said, oh, you know this guy that well, that you're setting up stand for him and stuff? He said, yeah, I eat here every week. You know, so it's that contact. That's what we're missing. And I think with COVID, I think if it's done anything good for the world, it's polarized our feelings for other people and made us realize what we're missing by not having that contact. And I mean, I know it's do well for people's mental health because it's really going to, you know, drop people's mental health. I remember a few years ago, there was this guy at work who was having family problems. I think he was going through a divorce. And I walked past him one day. I work in an industrial setting. And I walked past him in the corridor, and I didn't know him that well, but I knew him well enough to say hello to him. And I had contact with him within my job. And I just remember this, just such of a blank look as he passed me. And he didn't say anything to me on the day he committed suicide. And it was just like, that will haunt me for the rest of my life, the look that he had on his face. And the only thing that he communicated with other people that worked there was, you know, I don't know how you feel about guns and stuff like that. That's a whole big thing in America right now. And, you know, there's people for it and people against it. But he said to people, I want to take up a hobby. What do you think about me going out and shooting for a hobby? And people just didn't put two and two together that he was so depressed that he was going to take that gun and not go out shooting and use it to end his life. It was just so sad, really.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that story. I'm sorry.
But I didn't want to go down down a downer on this.
I'm sorry too.
No,
but no, it's not. It's not, because I think that's the thing that FC Alone is trying to do. Is that's real life, and just stuff like that, tragedies like that happen, and perhaps we can change how society views mental illness. Then that guy would have been able to step forward in front of his colleagues, I'm sure everyone would have been very accepting that he's having a terrible time and been able to support him. But for whatever reason, he felt that he couldn't. And then he made that irreversible choice to end his life, which is the choice that we don't want anyone to ever make.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think millennials, though, the positive thing that we can take from that is I think millennials and younger people are getting more and more aware of their feelings, particularly guys. I think it's traditional for people of my age. I'm going to be 61 this year, and I know, and even my father, they don't talk about their feelings very easily. They don't talk about when they feel down, when something's bothering them. And yes, it's really, really got to a point where they've got no other choice. I think it's so important for us to connect with other guys and say, look, you know, I'm having a really bad time here. Have you got any ideas as what I could do? You know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I was, you know, I stand on the other side of depression. I definitely have learned from my mistakes in terms of I didn't speak or get treatment until literally I was unable to speak, and then my family knew that they had to intervene. But aside from that, I'd been at university saying everything was fine. So,
yeah,
you know, I've been that guy, and even now it's still hard to open up. But through FC Not Alone, I've also met a whole network of people where I can. So, and I know I can. And also I know about these other organisations, fantastic organisations that exist and have trained professionals that, you know, the helplines are open every day. So yeah, I just wasn't aware of really what anxiety and depression were when I was younger. Didn't feel like I could talk about it. And that's kind of the two things that led to it getting so bad, really.
Yeah. I think a lot of it's positivity, staying positive about things. And I think you guys, you know, you're a force for positivity and you're doing fantastic work.
Thank you. But again, FC Not Alone doesn't exist without people wanting to also be a part of it and recognizing themselves in it.
Right.
So it is really a community project in that sense. And it's been breathtaking for Ian and I to see the public response to it. And long may it continue.
Awesome. Yeah, it's an awesome idea, and that's why they're responding so well.
Yeah.
Cheers, Dave.
Good. Yeah, you're welcome.
I just wanted to speak, go back a little bit when you talk about the kind of changes where people are having around mental health. I remember when I was first kind of diagnosed with depression as a teenager, the only thing they did was general practitioner, put you on medication, go about your day, you know, basically pretend everything is fine. And obviously that doesn't work. And by the time I grew up to be an adult, there was still this kind of shame around going to see or having a professional counselor or going to therapy. And that was something that I almost felt shame about. And so it's just compounding. And now, you know, being more open about it does really help. And I don't necessarily need to tell everybody everything, but just I guess that stigma around it, the more we put it out there, the more we recognize that it is a normal part of life to feel down. I think the better off we will all be. And just to kind of wrap this up, Matt, and once again, thank you. How can people get involved with FC Not Alone if they are in the UK? And then tell us a little bit about that partnership you have with Adidas and also with Calm.
Yeah, of course. It's actually not. You don't need to be based in the UK to get involved with us. You know, we have a website. We have all our socials. The website's www.fcnotalone.com, and we have journalists that submit pieces about topics, really anything from mental health and tend to be football based. And I believe Dave will be adding to that, so that's very exciting for us.
I'd like to.
Yeah, any other journalists, please. We're just trying to get the biggest team we can to write great pieces. And equally, we sell football kits, which helps fund our activity, with 50% going to Calm to help fund their organisation and all that they do, which is anything from helpline or bereavement services. I mean, they are incredible. So yeah, to support us, just find us on our socials at FC Not Alone, whether that's Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and get in touch. Really, get in touch. In terms of our partnerships with Adidas and Calm, we'll start with Calm because it probably makes more sense in that they've been there with us from the start. We had the idea for the tournament and they supported us, gave us, you know, kits and expertise, and also had their CEO Simon Gunning to come and do a speech for us because we just love what they're about. They're a kind of a modern male suicide prevention charity, in that they do events to get men together. So it's not, I think the way they describe it is, it's not the typical crying man outside in the rain. They go to comedy events and football events or entertainment events, and really merge the two topics of mental health within comedy or in football or entertainment. So this becomes a far more easy topic to discuss, which is partly what we're doing. And because we love what they do and they're the trained professionals, we've always dedicated some of what we have raised to them. The Adidas partnership came because they saw us, they liked what we were doing, and it started off by them sponsoring our second tournament, providing all the equipment, and also creating the kit that everyone can see on the website, which a few still available. And now they have launched a global campaign called the Adidas Football Collective to try and get as many people playing football as possible. And within that, they have partnered with us for their efforts within the United Kingdom. So that should mean that we can finally do more coaching sessions and more workshops and have more, professional coaches down to hold our activity. So we're very grateful to Adidas for that, and hopefully we'll get a new kit for the next season. So they're the partnerships, but yeah, everyone's welcome to get involved with FC Not Alone, and I look forward to meeting everyone hopefully at a tournament in the near future.
Yeah. I'll have to come down to one of those sessions for people who can't play.
It'd be incredible. You're both obviously more than welcome.
Yeah, I was talking to Matt the other day about taking a trip maybe next year and going to watch Southampton play, and then possibly coming to see you guys. That would be really awesome.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Yeah, no, well, we'd love to see you guys. So
Thank you.
Let's make that happen.
Yeah, we will make sure to put links to both the website and all your social media links and stuff in the show notes so people can find it quite easily. And yeah, I would encourage anybody who's living. I know a lot of listeners are in Southampton but the second biggest city is London. So if they're around, go down, check it out. Don't hesitate. And I just want to say thank you to you, Matt, not just for coming on the show, but for doing the work that you're doing. It is super important, and it is hard work. And not only the work that you're doing with FC Not Alone, but the work that you've done kind of on yourself. It's the toughest work there is, I think. And just thank you for all of it. And I wish both of you and all of you the best.
Equally. And thanks for having me on. Like, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys, and the fact that you've recognised FC Not Alone and wants to get involved for me is just, it's breathtaking and it's great. And it's been a great conversation. I hope to meet you guys soon. So please do stay in touch.
And so joining me now is Dave Champ. You can find him on Instagram at Away From Home Saint. Dave, we just spoke with Matt Legg. That was actually on Wednesday. We're speaking now just after the final whistle of the Burnley match. Happy Easter to you. I hope you're doing all right. It was early. It was a resurrection of sorts after the start we had, and here we are. But how you doing?
Good, Matt. I'm doing really well. Got up with a bit of a start this morning. Almost missed my alarm and just about made it.
Yeah. I'm awake after that match, that's for sure. But I'm also exhausted. I was tired at the start. I'm exhausted now, but for completely different reasons. So we'll just kind of jump right into it. Busy show this week, but I guess for you, what stood out to you in that match against Burnley?
Well, to start with, I was glad to see that we had a very strong team. Walcott and Ings back. Burnley started really, really well, and I started to get a little worried. It started to wake me up faster, put it that way. And although Burnley started very, very well, I looked at it as a very positive thing, because in the past, Saints have started like a bull out of the gate, and they fizzled it out towards the end of the game, almost lacked all that energy, lacked all the motivation to carry on. And this one, they started off a little steadier until after 20 minutes, and then they got themselves back into the game. I mean, it was a little bit of a downer that they went down to the penalty in the 11th minute. But after that, they seemed to regroup and get a lot better.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit beforehand, and we've seen Saints start super brightly, like you said, and then kind of fizzle out. And I wasn't sure what to expect. I was disappointed with the initial penalty. Not that I don't think Walker Peters fouls him, but I thought that the pullback from Eric Peters on Kyle Walker Peters was a foul beforehand. But maybe that's just me being a little bit biased and not wanting that to go. But once they go to VAR and they're only checking that challenge on Eric Peters, it was pretty obvious that was going to be given. And really, I thought once we went down 1-0, that was probably it. And then once we went down 2-0, I kind of thought, this is all the hallmarks of Burnley shutting up shop and us, having 70% of the ball, 75% of the ball, and never actually getting a shot off. And that couldn't be further from the truth once Saints got back into it.
Yeah, I felt after Vidra scored that we still had a strong team. And I didn't lose confidence after that, even because I could see the team still playing strongly, but facing a very, very tough physical opponent. And when, Armstrong, who had a fantastic game, Stuart Armstrong, wow, what a player. When he combined with Danny Ings, I felt better after that. And they pulled one back in the 31st minute. And then when Ings went up against me in the 42nd minute, just before halftime, and scored. I was thinking, yeah, what a great time to score just before halftime. Perfect. And, at halftime, I'm thinking, yeah, they've drawn level. It's a strong team. We're going to do well. It's either going to be a draw or we're going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the goals to get back into it. I think the quick response after we went down 2-0 was super important. I think the defending on our end could have been better in that first 30 minutes. I thought it was pretty pathetic to see basically, a long ball from the back, a knockdown from the big man, a finish from the little man. And that, if there was a playbook on how Burnley are going to attack you, that's kind of it. And we should have been better in dealing with that. But going the other way offensively, I thought we looked pretty decent. Danny Ings was nice to have him back. Armstrong, it was a great finish, and then Ings just all by himself for that second one was, I guess, just quite a run of play from him. It just did it all himself, and it was pretty great. So could have had a couple more goals towards the end. I was wondering if we were ever actually going to finish on the break, but in the end, 3-2, 3 points, pick up some points from losing positions, which is something we don't normally do. And, I think we can go about our Sunday and be happy with the overall result.
Oh, yeah, it was a great result. I mean, towards the second half, when James Ward-Prowse hit the bar, it really reminded me of the World Cup final in 1966 when that ball went down. And I was looking very closely to see whether it went over the line or not. And then towards the very, very end, when Shay Adams pulled away, and looked like he was just him and the goalkeeper, and he missed. That was like Jeff Hurst right at the end of the World Cup final in 1966 when he actually finished it off. And funny enough, it would have made the score 4-2, exactly the same as what it was in the final in 66 as well. So there were shades of the World Cup final in that game. I think overall the team did really, really well, and they've got to be happy with that. And it's put them up to where they're pushing Crystal Palace now. And I think at the end of the season, I guess the goal for Southampton would be to finish maybe in 10th or even 9th place if they can. That would be a great place to finish, but obviously there's a few more games to go.
Yeah. Did it concern you at all that the way the team started and the fact that we didn't seem to deal with a fairly direct team and or anything like that?
No, not really, because I kept on thinking that the team on paper looked very, very strong. And I had confidence that they would regroup and work out what was going on fairly quickly. I mean, at the end of the day, in my mind, it only took them about 20, 25 minutes to figure out what was going on. They were either going to figure it out in the first half or come out having figured it out in the second half.
Yeah, and I think the coming back from the international break, having guys that were out, on break and then coming back and kind of getting back into it, you can see us starting slowly. Given that, and I think Ward-Prowse being fit was obviously a big deal. having him in the middle. He's played every minute of the season so far, but there were some injury doubts. And then obviously getting the boost back of having Ings, having Walcott, those guys come straight back into the team. So them playing their first competitive minutes in some time, I think you could see that taking them some time to get into the game. But once we got going, I thought we looked much better than Burnley. In the end, I think it's a fair result overall. But you like to see us be a little bit cleaner with especially at the back, I think.
Right. I was a little concerned about Walcott. He seemed to blow a little bit hot and cold. He had a couple of good chances that he actually squandered, I think. I'm not sure exactly what the deal was with him. Maybe he wasn't quite match ready, or he hadn't played. He obviously hasn't played so many matches. I think that was more likely the case for him. I think once he's played a couple more matches, I think he's going to be absolutely amazing as well.
Yeah, and hopefully now he'll be able to stay fit through the rest of the season. And that's always kind of the thing with him and with Danny Ings is if they're fit and they're match fit, then I think they are they're definite starters. But I can't really complain after. I mean, I could have complained at 2-0, down 2-0, in the 28th minute. But after that, I thought we played well. I just won't complain. It's not worth it. We're just there's too many other important things in life, and it looked like a nice sunny day on the South Coast, which was nice. The sun's not even up here, so I don't know what it's going to be like here, but hopefully everybody enjoyed that.
I think Ohio is mirroring Southampton right now. It looks about the same. And right. When it's sunny on the South Coast, it's always a good day.
That's right.
I think Nathan Redmond as well, actually. I want to mention Nathan Redmond. What a great game he had. A fantastic goal he scored. And he is just a powerhouse. And I always enjoy watching him play. He is a fantastic player.
Yeah, kind of divides Southampton fan opinion. But I think he played well today. And that decision to start him alongside Danny Ings, people will always question it. Especially when Che Adams comes off of international duty and scored and looked good, and but I thought Redmond played well today. Maybe a couple of times towards the end we could have done a little better on the break, but when Che did get his chance, he missed that. So you never know if it's the right decision or not.
I think it was absolutely the right decision to play Nathan, because when he came on a couple of games ago as a substitute, he instantly had an effect on the game, and I think he scored within the first 10 minutes of coming on. So he really does have a very positive effect on Southampton. It's his speed, it's his ability to find that player that he wants to find when he's assisting, and he is just overall a great player for Southampton when he plays.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now, what is that, 36 points for the team, just a couple short of probably being safe. You mentioned 10th, 9th, somewhere in there. You think, looking back to the beginning of the season, if that's where Saints would have finished, would you be happy with that?
I think we've got to be happy with that right now. Whether you want to blame COVID or the lack of spectators at the game, I mean, it could be down to a number of factors, injuries. It's got to be an aim, I think. Like I said earlier, to get to at least 10th place. I think it's very achievable for them. They just have to keep playing like they are, and they have done today. And I think it's got to be good for the team. I always talk about keeping the momentum.
Yeah.
Actually, from the point of view of when we talked to Matt Legg earlier in the week, and he was talking about Fulham, I'd love to see Fulham stay up, and I'm sure he'd be glad to hear me say that. I think Fulham are a really good team, and we can pretty much see that Sheffield are done. West Brom, they may or may not. They had a good game yesterday.
Yeah,
they may stay up. It just depends what happens around those teams as well. The team's very slightly ahead of them. If they have a bad time, then maybe one or West Brom or Fulham may well survive.
Yeah.
Of the two teams, I'd like to see Fulham survive. I'm not so sure West Brom will.
Yeah.
Sheffield are done, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just glad, at 2-0 down, it kind of looked like maybe that Chelsea-West Brom game was a precursor to what we were going to witness today, and then I'm glad it didn't turn out that way. So, and obviously, I didn't get up at 4 a.m. to watch that game because that's never going to happen, but I did for us. Contemplated going back to sleep in the chair after they went 2-0 up and just said, I'll just listen to the game, but I'm glad I didn't because would have been the wrong call.
Yeah. Yeah, you would have missed a great amount of skill.
Yeah,
and some great goals.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, any final thoughts? And either player of the match or anything like that before we wrap this up.
For me, I really have two favorite players. I'd say Stuart Armstrong and Danny Ings. Well, no, I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna add Nathan Redmond as well. I think all three of them deserve to be mentioned in this game. Out of all of them, it would be easy for me to say Danny Ings, because Danny Ings did show a lot of composure in front of goal, particularly on the goal he scored. I really like Stuart Armstrong, and I think Stuart Armstrong has had some amazing games for Saints this season, and he is a very, very important player. He's quite often overlooked by a lot of people, but when you look at what he does and how he does it, he's an amazing player. What a great signing when we got him a couple of seasons ago. So, yeah, I would say if I had to pick any one of the three, I would go with Stuart Armstrong.
Okay.
As being the best player today.
That's fine.
Despite the other two, having done brilliantly as well.
Yeah. Well, Armstrong's always fun to watch. And the role that he plays for us, he seems to take up a bunch of different positions. And he always seems to be, it doesn't really matter who starts on the other side. He always seems to be the better of the wide number 10s, And so I think that says something about him. And, it's nice that he has an international teammate on the team now and Che Adams, and hopefully they can start linking up for some goals here pretty soon. But just want to say thanks for setting up the interview with Matt Legg of FC Not Alone and introducing me to that. I think that was definitely a highlight. And then of course talking to you once again was always good, and we'll keep doing this.
Well, thank you, Matt. Yeah, I enjoy talking with you about Southampton.
Yeah, and hopefully that trip over will happen at some point soon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I really want to get that going. Hopefully all the circumstances come around and it's going to be possible without too much fuss and too much rigmarole.
Yeah, hopefully, cross your fingers for home matches.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your Easter. Say hello to the in-laws, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you, Matt. Stay safe.
We'd like to welcome to the Southampton Dellivery Podcast Stephen White. You can find him on Instagram at St. Mary's Statbase. Stephen, thanks for joining me on Easter Sunday. It's a sunny day. Saints were resurrected after being down 2-0 to come back and win 3-2. So good day to talk, but how are you?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Very well, thank you. Yeah, lovely and sunny here. It's been cold the last few days, so it's nice to have the sun out for Easter Sunday. And yeah, what a day for it. Saints came back magnificently. So yeah, I'm very happy to be on.
Yeah, it at 2-0 down, I was kind of like, well, maybe this is my sign just to go back to bed. It was 4 a.m., 4:30 by the time that happened. It's like, how much more coffee do I want to have before I call it a day? But I'm glad it turned around pretty quickly. But kind of before we jump into the match a little bit, I did speak with Dave Champ, who's been on the show several times just a little bit ago. But just before we jump into that, you run St. Mary's Statbase, and we kind of talked beforehand. You like numbers. Numbers are a part of your life for more than one reason. But I guess what gave you the idea to start St. Mary's Statbase there? And I'll just say this: there are a lot of Instagram pages out there. Yours stands out from the others based on kind of the stuff you do. But what was the idea behind it, and what made you start it?
Yeah, I think I actually remember the first time I thought of doing the page. I was coming back so I work in London, so I commute up to London each day, and I was coming back on the train from London, and I was thinking, I remember looking through Instagram. I was looking at Southampton page. I was thinking, like, man, there's not really anything about stats, and I think as a club, maybe not of the kind of stature of the top 6 big clubs, maybe we don't really get to see Southampton statistics too much. And I thought maybe there's almost like a gap in the market for something here, just to focus solely on statistics. So I kind of had that idea in my head, and then I just started a page, just kind of seeing, where it might lead to. Just kind of, I guess, like, our catch was that it was purely just going to be based on statistics to start off with. And we just started to get a really good reception at first. I remember the guys from In That Number, they were really encouraging at the start, and yourself. And it kind of took off from there, really. It then sort of progressed into becoming more involved with Southampton FC Women, and then kind of progressed to really fun stuff with interviews. But I think when we started off, it was just purely going to be about statistics, and I was just trying to almost like exploit that gap. And I thought, it was something that I felt not enough people were doing. So I thought, that little gap in the market, I'll try and get in there.
Yeah, I mean, stats are super interesting. Like you said, a lot of them come out from, about the big 6, and then you see, if you look at any of these presenters, the match day packets they get, they're full notebook size things, and they all come from Opta, but they're all also kind of highlighted and pinpointed as to what they're going to point out. Because sometimes I wonder, like, does every announcer sit there and go back into Football Reference and pull all these things out? And it's like, no, they don't. There's some poor guy at Opta who's just like, you get Burnley this week, and like just has to go through and do all this stuff. But I guess to make sense of them is I think the difficult part, right? The numbers sometimes, to me, when I look at them, it's like, I don't know if that's significant or not, and I sometimes wonder if if I'm doing something a disservice by pointing out a stat or something like that, But you have a lot more, I guess experience with numbers than I do, so it's probably a little better for you.
Yeah, I guess, as we were speaking about earlier, like, my job's an analyst, so I'm naturally kind of more inclined into numbers and delving down deeper into what they actually mean. So I started off just looking a lot at times G, and I think at times maybe I was getting a little bit too complex, and I was just asking for feedback. I think what I just needed to do was make things quite simple for fans to understand. At that point, Southampton were sort of floating above the relegation zone. I was thinking, maybe to the neutral, this doesn't sound too interesting, but maybe I can look at why we're not really competing above maybe where we should have been at the time. And it was just things like our times G was like a fairly good number. We just weren't hitting it for some reason. And just trying to tell a story with stats to begin with, really. And then when we came back after lockdown, things got more interesting. Saints were doing well. So it's always fun to then pick out these like cool stats, like times A as well, times expected assists, and looking at the players that perhaps weren't scoring so much, like Che Adams, for example, but his XA was really high. So you see the players that can contribute in different terms, not necessarily goals. So I've always found it very interesting, and I wanted to be able to show that to all the fans, see like what they were missing.
And then I think through early parts of this season, we were outperforming XG and expected assists by a long shot, and that was always kind of the when things started to fall apart. It was one of those warnings that some of the stats guys, especially at the Athletic, were like, "We've been saying this, we're here, and they're." You look at Sheffield United; they shouldn't have been that bad. We probably shouldn't have been that good, and I think they're not coming back, but I think we are starting to find out and settle a little bit. But one of the big things you've been able to do with the page is you started doing stuff with Southampton FC Women's. I'll be honest, I support Southampton Women's FC. So I've kind of, I was a little petty at the beginning. I wouldn't associate myself with the football club from Southampton FC Women's. But you've been able to not only do stats for them, which is, I'm sure, harder to find and things like that, but you've also been able to do several interviews that have been, I think, really well received and also have been very well done. So like, just nice job on that on a personal level. But how did that come about? Where did you get the idea to do that? And then how have you found kind of getting access to the players and the club and things like that?
Yeah, so I think first off, it came about when there was that first break in the football. So obviously we'd gone into lockdown and there was no football at all. So it gave me that time to sort of think, what can I do differently? I'd only been running the page a couple of months by that point. So I think what I first wanted to do was maybe look at different sides of Southampton. So either the academy or the women's side. And I remember I just started off sending out a load of messages to players, just seeing if I could get any sort of feedback or reception. And I remember just the women's side, so many of the players were just messaging me. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, you don't normally like get responses from players. So I remember one in particular, Rachel Pansing. So she's a striker for Southampton FC Women. She was just really receptive. And I then started to have an idea of like, well, maybe I could sort of just do some designs for profiles, just to give them a bit more, just so they're sort of like more well known, I think, to the fans, because we don't necessarily see that side so often. And then it just started off with just those few profiles. So I think I did one for Shelley as well, Shelley Proven, Ella Pusey, and Shannon Siverite as well. And then I remember then it kind of got to the summer, and again I was thinking like, what more could I do? So I was thinking potentially with interviews, that would be really fun to do. So then managed to get in contact with Caitlin and Ella Morris. So I just asked them, were they sort of interested in talking to me about the club and how they see like the club that's for the women's side, like how that's come up in the last few years, because it's only started again recently. And I then just had to sort of get some permissions from like the general manager, the communications at Southampton, and they basically just gave the green light, and I was able to do that interview earlier on the year with Caitlin and Ella, which went down really well. And then from then on, I've just kind of done some more graphics for the girls. I recently did one for Phoebe, which was really well received. And I think it's nice to be able to see that different part to Southampton, because I don't think fans necessarily see that so often. So it's just bringing in another light, really. And I was really, positive.
Yeah, and the women's club is definitely not as well known or well followed, and I think that kind of goes across, across England, right? Like women's football is not as big as men's football, and normally, because when you say football, people automatically assume it's the men's team. You have to specify if you're talking about the women's team, which I don't know if that will change, but hopefully we move towards something where that's kind of as well received or as well followed, and the stats are as easy to access and things like that. I think that will be a change, but I also think that the steps have been taken and things have definitely improved, but I think there's a long way to go. I don't think we're close to being where we want. Happy Easter from the dogs in the alarm there. Sorry. We may hear them, but that's just kind of how it goes. So that's all right. But I guess let's talk a little bit about Burnley, because I always worry coming back from an international break for Saints. One, yes, the guys are rested, especially sometimes we don't have a lot of guys going out on international duty, and I think that may help just get legs fresh. And Ings obviously coming back from an injury, so he's not going anywhere. Walcott had time to get healthy. But Vestergaard and Bednarak, the two guys who came back from international duty, I would say didn't have their best game. And maybe that's to be expected. Ward-Prowse was fit, which was nice. But when we come back from international breaks, do you generally worry about guys coming back and the team cohesion, or what's your kind of feeling on that?
I think I was more positive, because I know that from our past history, in terms of like the last year, we've actually come back from international breaks or from the lockdown really strong. So I was expecting to see a strong Saints side, and we did see that with Walcott coming back in from injury, Ings starting. I was very pleased with the lineup. I think he could have, he could have chucked in Che Adams. He's obviously performed well for Scotland, but he decided to keep with Redmond, which I think paid off. And I think you always have to try and remain positive because Ralph's had that time together with the players to work on what's been going wrong. And obviously we've not been performing so well in the last few games. So
Right.
I remember the commentators were saying that he's tried to keep the training sessions really kind of hardcore because in that break, I think players can kind of slow down and then their muscles relax a bit more. So they're not in tune to those games when they come back. So I think it was just all about Ralph, like keeping up those hard sessions.
Yeah, I think Ralph and intensity, those two things go well together. I can't imagine him allowing to take time off or allow guys to take time off too much. So that's good. So you mentioned the lineup. I thought it was pretty strong. I actually didn't know what the lineup was until the game kicked off because it was so early. I was more concerned about getting coffee inside of me than anything else. But the start, Dave, who I just spoke to just a moment ago, kind of said, we tend to start off very brightly and then fade. We kind of did the opposite today, and it worked out. And generally, if we get 3 points, I won't really care. But at 2-0 inside the first 30 minutes, I kind of went like, is this really what I want to be up for? Like, is this it? But what did you make of the start? Especially, I guess let's just start with the first goal with the penalty. From my perspective, I thought Kyle Walker-Peters was fouled by Eric Peters before Kyle Walker-Peters fouled Eric Peters. I don't know.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah, I didn't really see the original tackle, and I remember the commentators were saying, "Oh, he's won the ball. It's going to be fine." And then they had that break, and they looked at VAR. Obviously, the ref then went to the screen. I think Eric Peters was pushing off KWP off the ball, and I think I always find it difficult with these challenges because he had kicked the ball, and then Kyle Walker-Peters then made the challenge, and I'm thinking, do the rules need to be changed here? Because he's already kicked the ball. Okay, he's come in and maybe that's affected like how he's kicked the ball, but he'd already kicked the ball. So I don't know. I think it was a penalty, but I think the rules need to be changed around when you kick it versus when the challenge actually comes in.
Okay. I kind of thought if Eric Peters pulls Kyle Walker-Peters back outside the box like that around the midfield line, I guess, then it's a foul going our way, But because it's inside the box and Kyle Walker-Peters doesn't go down, there is and then there's no doubt that Kyle Walker-Peters absolutely cleans him out. This bad tackle, not great. Eric Peters eventually had to go off. I don't think it was related to that. I think it was related to something else. But I was not happy with the whole situation. Also, did not realize Eric Peters was Dutch. I could have swore he was born somewhere in the north of England, and actually, I should have looked up before we talked. Which team had more British players or English players starting today? I would have definitely thought it was Burnley, but looking at Wood and Peters, and all of a sudden I started to doubt myself a little bit. But whatever. And then obviously they go 1-0 up with the penalty, and then the second goal. I just thought if there's a way Burnley are going to beat you, this is going to be it, right? Play it back. Long ball forward, big man knocks it down to little man finishes, and you just expect Bednarak and Vestergaard to go hey, that they have one way they do this, and you let them do it. And I don't know, I was super frustrated at that point, but how did you feel when that second goal happened the way it did?
Yeah, very much the same, pretty frustrated. It was almost a carbon copy of what happened last year with Mate Vidra scoring against us. Absolute wonder strikes from him. He seems to just pull it out for Saints. But it would just be a one long ball over the top, and then they'll somehow leave a 2v2 situation. So it'd be Vidra and Wood versus Vestergaard and Bednarak, and somehow our fullbacks are just quite far up the field. All Wood has to do is then knock it down to Vidra, and he absolutely, very clean strike, really good goal. So just frustrating. Just that long ball over the top. I didn't think Vestergaard maybe was doing enough at that point in terms of winning the first ball. So disappointed.
I've praised Vestergaard, and I think all of us have, and that partnership has been pretty good, but just didn't have it in the first kind of 30 minutes today. And then luckily, those Saints kind of reacted almost right away, and Vestergaard didn't deal with the ball in the air very well, but suddenly he showed up kind of on the left wing, I think, and was holding the ball up. And it was like, who is this guy? What is he doing? And eventually the ball gets played into Ings, who nice touch around the corner for Armstrong, who finished brilliantly. And it was kind of just out of nowhere that, this, here we go. And kind of felt like we were back into it. And I just have on my notes, wow at the penalty, wow at the goal from Vidra, wow at the goal for the interplay from Ings. Like I mean, maybe it's just because it's early and I don't want to write long words, but like, just the game had a series of wow type moments, I thought, from my perspective.
Yeah, similarly, I was writing notes down and I was thinking defending. I think I wrote that down at one point in terms of the Burnley goals. And then just out of nowhere, as you say, Vestergaard pops up on the left wing and you're thinking like, what's he doing over there? He's I can't remember if he was the one who fed it into Ward-Prowse, but that pass to Ings and the little layoff to Armstrong, it was beautiful build up to that goal. I think the commentator was saying that Pope was wrong-footed, so I think that's why he didn't quite get down quick enough to save the goal. But yeah, really well worked, and I think that's something we've really been lacking, that just quick interplay to then get into the final third, and get the goal. So yeah, really good comeback there.
Yeah, and Pope did have quite a bit to do today. Towards the end of the game, when it was 2-2, we were trying to go ahead, and then I think even when we were ahead 3-2, it was kind of like, just need Pope to know he's not Jesus. His job isn't to save everything. If he could just let us do this, that would be great. But we got out of the 3-2 winners in the end, and Danny Ings did manage to level the score before halftime, and another defensive mistake from me this time, and Ings kind of, I'm not even sure what he was trying to do there, but Ings gets around him and then just kind of does what Danny Ings does. He just finishes, and he was composed. And I mean, when he did that, I just kind of, again, wow, but just that was, it was nice to see him back, because he's back fit. I think he's the only player on our team that does that puts all of it together in terms of getting on the mistake, capitalizing on the mistake, finishing well. I think we got a lot of players who could get to the ball, but not finish, and then fewer who would finish it but not get to the ball. But Danny Ings, I think, is the only one who does both.
Yeah, that composure from Ings, the finish, just brilliant. I can't remember who fed it into Ings, but as you say, Ben Mees tried to come across and he's completely misjudged it. Didn't get a toe poke in it or anything, and then so it's kind of left for Danny Ings to then get a couple of touches. I think he then sees James Tarkowski coming in just on his kind of peripheral vision, so he knows that he's going to have a player sliding in, so it's not worth going for that shot. So the composure to then just take a touch to fake that he's going to shoot, and then take it around him, pass it under Pope's legs. It's a brilliant goal. As you say, I don't think many players in our club have the composure to do that. So we've really missed Danny Ings, and I'm glad he's back.
He puts people on posters, it seems, all the time, in basketball in the NBA. That's, you don't ever want to be on the poster, but he seems to, maybe he did it to Ardeweireld, he did it today, and he just sends guys the wrong way. And it's just like, you hate to be, somebody does that to you playing five-a-side, you're like, oh man, like I'm never going to hear the end of that. But like, nobody's taking pictures of five-a-side and putting it on the internet. Like, so I didn't actually notice. I was too busy writing wow to see if he really celebrated, because it is his former team. But looking up stuff for the game, looking up for images and stuff to do the pre-match stuff, I did notice that Ings does the same celebration. It's always the arms out. There are so many images of him tapping the badge in the exact same manner that he does the Southampton one. It's like, oh, like, he loves playing football. He loves scoring goals, and I think that's all. I think that's why I like him. So that's nice. I guess for you, what really, if anything, stood out in the second half? Obviously, we have the goal. Ings was involved in that again. I think the three players who you would probably put towards the man of the match type performers, Ings, I don't know if Redmond's there, but Armstrong, are all involved. But what did you make of that third goal? And then I guess what else stood out to you in the second half, as we looked kind of pretty dominant, I guess, throughout?
Yeah, I think what was different today to a lot of our second half performances this season is we just kept the pressure up. I think all the more so because we'd come down from 2 goals down, and then we're trying to get that third goal. we were just cranking up the pressure, and it seemed like we would get a third. You kind of started to believe. It wasn't really till those like final 20 minutes that we had a few iffy moments, but we were really cranking up the pressure. And I think, yeah, for me, Redmond was definitely a contender for man of the match. Really, really impressed with him. I actually really liked Walcott today. I know he had a few instances where it was that counter attack, and he could have probably sealed it for us if he'd have played the right ball. But just being able to keep persisting for that third goal. So obviously Ings has gone for his shot, and then Walcott, I think again, he was pretty composed, because I think if it fell to someone else, potentially I don't know, if it fell to someone like Adams, he might have just tried to go for a first time shot, but Walcott took that touch, and then he was able to pick out Redmond, little looping ball, and then Redmond again, very composed, and he takes his shot brilliantly. So to take it up to 3-2, I think just, yeah, the pressure and the composure in the second half, I was really impressed with. Yeah, it wasn't really till we got a third goal that I think maybe we sort of tried to reel it in a little bit, and then obviously Ralph's brought on Salisi to go for a back five, and then we invited pressure a bit too much. But yeah, really impressive compared to a lot of our second half performances where we've capitulated.
Yeah, I don't know why I said Armstrong was involved in that goal. It's definitely Walcott. So thank you for correcting me there. But yeah, and then, I have the last note I have written down is, are we ever going to score on the break? We had. It's just kind of like we were getting closer, inching closer, and then you finally think, okay, chase through. Here we go, 4-2. Seal it up, and then he just goes wide, and you go like, oh, that's Che Adams of early 2019-2020 season. We needed Che Adams post COVID break, but it wasn't quite there. So hopefully maybe I thought maybe he'd get another chance, but he just didn't. But 3-2 winners, we'll take it. I think they said, if memory serves me correctly, that's the first time we've come back from 2-0 down, maybe since that Liverpool game. I can't remember. I think that's it. Yeah. And if that's the game that I'm thinking of, that was a hotel room that did not appreciate what I did to it when we were doing that, because it was a good time. That was one time where I almost left at halftime, because I was like, I got a 5-hour drive home. I should just leave. And then, the comeback started. I said, maybe I should stay. But that was nice. So anyway, well, I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to point out? I think we have one listener question to kind of get to here. So we can just go to that if you want, and if not, we'll continue to talk about the game, whatever you want.
A couple of points. I think just in general, Redmond played very well today. I think it just shows that confidence goes a long way with him, especially after Bournemouth. He's been able to score 2 goals, and he got the assist, I think, for that game too. But just keeping up that confidence, every time he kind of looked to go forwards, he would then make a forwards pass. So sometimes it didn't come off, but the Redmond of maybe 5 or 6 games ago, he probably would have passed it backwards. So I think definitely his confidence is on the rise, and I think that really helps the team, because when they're seeing players take on a couple of the Burnley defenders, it probably gives a lot of confidence to the team. And I just think we just had so many shots today. I think it was 22 or 24 shots in total today, and I think that's the most we've had in a long time. So just being able to keep out that pressure, and it's definitely, I think the international break has definitely helped, and we've needed that kind of break, because it's just been constant games every like few days, and we just needed that time to just refresh and reset. So yeah, I'm very pleased that it's been 3 weeks now. So
I'm glad I didn't tweet any of the things I was texting people, because at 2-0 and with Burnley, I figure, okay, this is where they go, 2 banks of 4, and we don't score, and we may have, a ton of possession, but we're never going to get anything from it. And I'm just glad I didn't put those out into the public view, because those are the things that get brought up, and then, not great. But yeah, I'm glad they proved me wrong. So yeah, we do have one question. It's from FUT_AST, and there's a lot of speculation around contracts and things like this, and Danny Ings having the game he had today, or on Sunday, when people listen to this on Tuesday, he says, assuming the Saints survive the drop, how do they pivot if Ings leaves this summer? I feel more confident now that we will survive. I was never really kind of doubting it. There was definitely some dark moments, but we survive. Ings leaves. what do you think has to be done? I mean, 10 goals in all competitions so far, and I think he means a lot more than, as you said, just the numbers say to the team. But what do you think happens there?
Well,
don't say Sergio Aguero.
I'd obviously love him to stay. I think, as he showed today, is so important to the side, and in terms of it's not just his goal scoring, it's his link-up play as well, and ability to kind of drive from our half, and even his defending is brilliant at times too. I think we should be doing everything we can to keep hold of him. It'd be a real shame to see him go, but if he does decide that's what he wants to do, then who can really stop him after what he's given to the club? But I think we then have to kind of focus on getting the best out of Adams, really. Now he's an international player playing for Scotland. I think that's really going to kind of help him with his confidence, being able to have those extra games to play. And from what I read, he was like one of the best players for Scotland in that international break. So yeah. I think, get the most out of Adams, and then we'd probably have to look for another striker, because I think in Lundaloo, he's too young. He's still kind of learning his trade, and I don't think long, he's probably not going to be coming back to the club. I think he's still got another year left on his contract, so potentially he'll just be there for helping out the younger players, but he's probably not going to get too much game time. So I think focus on Adams, and hopefully Ings doesn't leave.
There was some a write-up looking at how different teams have used substitutions in the Athletic, and I think Long was our most used substitute, and he hasn't even been here since January. But I think only 3 goals from the bench all season for Saints, and it's just, like you said, not good enough. And if we're going to have a somebody to partner Adams, if Adams is going to be the guy, we got to have a partner that suits him. And whether that's Redmond, whether that's somebody else, I don't know. Or because I just can't see us going out and finding another goal scorer. I think that's probably too much to ask financially, especially with things contract running down and just kind of what that means. So. We probably don't get that much money for him if he goes, because there's only a year left on the contract. I think I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time, but fingers crossed, we don't have to worry about any of that. So, and he stays and he keeps scoring goals, and we can just keep celebrating how great he is, and seeing pictures of his dogs on Instagram. So I think that's that makes everybody smile. I don't even like dogs, and it makes me smile. So anyway,
I think also just added to that, I think I was just on Instagram a little bit this week, and I saw a lot of kind of posts on his profile. He doesn't normally do that, so that's usually when I feel like that's when he's in a good mood. So hopefully he's in a good mood and wants to sign the contract. Yeah,
he doesn't, as long as he's not pulling the Højbjerg, where he just suddenly has a social media following because he wants to go to London, But I don't think that's what he's doing. It doesn't feel like that. So I think it's just time off. Play with the dogs and everything's good. But I just want to say thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk on Easter Sunday, nonetheless. And it's been wonderful. And the page, I'm glad the page is going well. People don't follow you, it's at St. Mary's Statbase. The link is in the show notes so people can find it and give you a follow. And it's something, like you said, it's something a little different, something that other people aren't doing. And it's just it's a good look at the club and making sense of some of the things that I think we kind of, it goes across the screen on Sky Sports or whatever, and then it's out of our minds, and there's actually a story there if you kind of pick the right stuff and dig in a little bit. So you do a great job with that, and I would encourage everybody to go take a look.
Cheers, Matt. Thank you.
And that does it for the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed it. There are entirely too many people to thank for the success of this show, and I'm not just talking about numbers or anything like that, but we will start with this week's guest, Matt Legg of FC Not Alone, Dave Champ, and of course, Stephen from St. Mary's Statbase. If you don't already follow them on social media, the links are in the show notes. I would encourage you to get in touch. And remember, talk to someone if you are feeling down. Reach out to somebody who may be feeling down. Remind them that they are not alone, that we are there with them, and that we're all in this together. So thank you to everybody who joined the show this week to make it come off, and I hope that everybody enjoyed it. looking forward, thank you so much to everyone who has partnered with the show over the years. That means Jay from the Southampton page. That means the Saints Archive, Will, and Leon. You guys have been fantastic. I'm sorry that we didn't do more this season. That's on me, not you. And I hope and I know that you will continue to grow and do good things. So thank you to you. Matt Beeling of the We Are Southampton page, who did the logo for the show. You were there from the very beginning. Aside from my wife, I think you were the first person to know that this show was going to happen. Thank you for being such a great supporter. If you don't already follow him, at We Are Southampton on Instagram. Once again, links are in the show notes. There are so many individuals who have reached out, who have, provided constructive criticism, who have helped shape the show just by their comments or their suggestions. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you to the patrons of the show. It was especially hard to break the news to you guys. I had to use alcohol to do it, which is not a good coping mechanism. But it was great to have your support, to be able to get to know so many of you. And I just want to say that a lot of you out there have, we've connected in some way through this show. And I plan to keep those connections alive. Nothing's going to change other than I won't be doing the show every week. Still a fan. I'll still be up at 4 a.m. to watch the team. And I still plan on, getting over there once this whole COVID thing kind of passes. To those of you who were scheduled to come on the show over the next 8 weeks before the season is over, I owe you beer, and I will provide that when I get over there. And thank you to everybody. And even though there won't be a next time, just remember that together we march on.